Hi everyone. My name is Roman. I'm currently heading the customer care department for Zooplus. What Zooplus does and everything else will come later. Just a short story. I'm working in customer care for 20 years now. Started as a typical customer care agent, so I know right from the start. I know all the pain points and certain things. And I wish we would have some of those awesome technologies back in the days when I started working, because it was quite tedious to a certain point. And to a certain point, I'm quite jealous looking at my agents now using awesome technology, having AI at hand and other things. So I think it's a great time to do service, better than before. It's anyways a great time to be alive, even though crisis and everything else. But it's awesome, and happy to have you in here, and thank you for having me as well. And I would pass over to Arun, and then we just kick it off, right?
Fantastic. Roman, first of all, very excited to do this with you. I was at the other session, and it was really, really interesting what the family team have put together, and the type of audience, and I'm sure the types of questions we are going to get.
Yeah.
So your experience will be immensely valuable, so no doubt about it. So let me introduce myself, really brief. My name is Arun. I'm the president of Freshworks Europe. And who is Freshworks? Freshworks, I was in the other panel talking about. We are a SaaS company. We are 10 years old. We are still private. We raised 400 million. We have something like 40,000 customers who use our products. We have 12 products, and we are in 12 countries. 12 offices selling products in 180 countries. Nowadays, we say we have 3,000 offices. That's the number of employees we have. Everybody is working from home. And I've been in the company for 4 years. I'm based in Berlin, and I have the honor of actually today being with Roman. Roman has been one of our fantastic customer, and he's going to share more experiences about his scaling experience today. Okay. So with that, I would basically start with some questions, and meanwhile, if there are more questions, please post it on the board here so we can actually pick it up and take it from there as well. So Roman, maybe let's start with you. Tell us more about Zooplus. Starting from when it started. What is the scale? Just give some numbers so people understand the scale they're talking about, from where it went to where it is today. Right. And
yeah. So Zooplus, for everybody who has a pet, I hope you know us already. If not, check us out. Zooplus has been founded 1999. So we had our 20 years anniversary last year. Freshworks is having his 10th anniversary this year. So we are actually Europe's biggest internet e-commerce store for pet supplies. So everything that you need, from cat litter to toys for your puppy, you name it, we have it, I would say. We are currently operating in 30 countries in Europe. Having that, and the store contains roughly 88,000 articles, from private label from our own sites up to the currently most hype products from other markets and brands and everything else. So that's what it is right now. Scale-wise and maybe number-wise, last year we had a customer base, an active customer base of 7.6 million unique customers alone last year. Numbers are growing this year. I guess we come to that point later, maybe on. So that's just to give you a rough estimate what the company does. We're shipping up to 80,000 parcels a day on a work day. So some impressive numbers, I would say. Customer care wise, we offer services in 22 languages to our customers. We are currently still pretty old school, I would say. So we only offer phone, email, and contact form. That's the current situation. That's one of the reasons why we chose Freshworks as our new partner on that side, to enable us to do way more things. We're coming to those things later in the discussion and everything else. But that's what it is currently. We are actually currently in the phase of rolling out Freshdesk and Freshcaller to our agents. And in numbers, we're speaking roughly 450 users that we are currently onboarding to Freshdesk and Freshcaller. We started in November, so way before anybody would have thought what crazy things would go down and everything else, with a small team, because our approach was, let's start with a smaller team. We know what we want to achieve, but let's learn from that and always onboard a bigger team so they don't have to face the childish issues and everything else and the birth pain and everything else. So we're always putting on top new experiences and everything else for my customers, because I have two groups of customers, my agents and then our customers who are buying the pet litter and whatnot else and the other things. So that's my approach towards it, and I want to serve both customers in the best possible way. My agents as well, because frustration never helps. And onboarding to a new system should always be as smooth as possible from my point of view. You talked about these things in the panel before.
Yeah.
And having a great acceptation even from the end user means that they should have something at hand which enhances their life, makes it easier, unless worse. So that's the point towards that. And yeah, that's where we're at right now, and that's what we're currently doing and pushing forward, and we're having great results already and awesome experiences creating on both sides of my customer base, again, agents and customers. So that's where we're at right now, and I guess we want to talk about a little bit more, right?
Yeah, I think, first of all, what is like in the sense of like I think I just took down something like 90,000, 84,000 SKUs of products, and 7 to 8 million active users. And you said something like 80,000 parcels being shipped every single day, and 22 languages. And these are staggering numbers in any which way you look at it, right? And many of our listeners most likely in an early stage, much earlier, whether it's in an e-commerce company and so on. But how did, as the company grew, it took 20 years to get to this stage, what was the evolution of customer support itself? Or maybe let me even get back and ask, how was customer support viewed as in the overall strategy of the company? Because some companies, they say cost is everything. We are the lowest cost provider. Some companies say we are the niche products you will never find anywhere else. We can find it here. And similarly for Zooplus, what is like the core tenets, and where did customer support actually fit in that in the overall piece?
I think going back to 1999, I wasn't there with the company, but stories that I heard and talking to people that are still with the company, which is quite extraordinary from my point of view. Even I have somebody in my team who's with the company for 15 years, which is almost crazy, just considering it. And so at the early beginnings, it was all about being efficient, right? So that was something that the main focus was always on logistics and having the best procedures during checkout and delivery. Why delivery? Even back in the days, our founder realized that especially pet foods, if you have a cat at home, you need cat litter. That's heavy. That's heavy stuff. So the convenience part of these kind of things, ordering it online, getting the DHL guy, bringing it actually to your door. You don't need to drag it all the way to your home and everything else. The main focus was more on these kind of things. Service was a part that was obviously needed, and it was in-house. Like in each startup, I don't know a single startup that starts with external teams. Why? Because you get the best information from the customers that you talk to. So the typical thing, senior level was sitting at the phone, picking up the phone, talking to customers, realizing what issues are and these kind of things. And it developed to a mass market. I mean, coming from at the beginning 4 agents that were doing customer care just for the DACH region, which is easy. It's one language, it's German, right? Now having 450 agents serving 22 languages was a huge leap forward, and the steps in between, they were painful to a certain degree. Because the company was growing at rates of 30% sometimes, even 35%. So keeping up, and especially back in the days, and that's one of the reasons why I'm with the company now, I'm helping Zooplus to understand that you shouldn't cope with higher volume in sales. It shouldn't equal that part on the agent side as well. So going up 30% in sales, that's a crazy ass number, which is great. But you shouldn't be forced to put 30% more agent on the other side to handle whatever's happening. So, and that knowledge and that understanding is something I'm currently planting into that company, making people realize that it's more about technology. It's more about efficiency and procedures. It's more about these kind of things. Make life easier for your agents as well as for the customer. So that's the point. And that was the scaling, and that's something where if you look at last year, we grew by more than 25% sales-wise. Luckily, ticket volume-wise, we were way under 5% of growth.
Got it. Now,
this is possible even before your time, before Freshdesk. We approached a more proactive way, and that was something that you and the guy from Guru, Rick was his name, I think. That proactiveness is something that is highly important. Reaching out to customers before they realize something's going on. That creates that wow moment to a certain degree that you were talking about before, and that's in your company culture as well. And that's one of my things as well. I read a book early 2000s, Delivering Happiness from Tony Hsieh.
Yes, very famous book from Zappos, right?
Yeah, I love it. It was an epiphany for me to a certain degree. I was always believing that good service can push a company beyond many, many other things.
Yeah.
But especially in Germany, you have something which they call in German, Servicewüste.
Yeah.
So it's that missing service in a desert, right? It's the service desert. You're starving to get service, good service in Germany. So doing service in Germany was quite tough on that level. But that book and Tony Hsieh is talking about those wow moments as well, right? Creating something special that you remember.
Yes.
So it's the same on our side. What we trying to establish and trying to do is that creating those wow moments for customers, but as well for our agents as well on a certain level. Yeah.
So Roman, you made a lot of good points. Actually, you made a lot of good points. I want to unpack, spend a little bit more time, because two things I want to call out. One is you mentioned about in the early stages, because again, keeping in mind a lot of our audience listeners are early stage startups. You mentioned something like that the execs even actually listen to calls to understand what is going on and stuff. Now, this is a very interesting thought, and I'd like to add a point here is saying one of my peeve, and also in our company, Girish, our founder, always said, if you want to learn about the products that we sell, the business we are in, be a customer support agent for a week. That's the best onboarding that you can potentially get, because you know intimately what is happening and so on.
Absolutely.
And that's a very interesting one. The other one is, you talked about scaling and how to break the linearity. If you want to increase the revenue by 30%, you don't want to increase the customer support headcount by 30%. You want to break it. And that's something that I want to put a pin on it and come to that, because that's a very important point, because for a lot of startup and scale-up founders on the call to think about how to break the linearity.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 1 second. One thing, when I looked at your website and looked at Trustpilot, even though you said the initial focus was on logistics and making sure the convenience and so on, Zooplus has almost 68% outstanding rating in the Trustpilot rankings. Your customers are telling you, you guys are outstanding, 68% of the people. That's not an accident. It's more a deliberate. How did that come about? What makes Zooplus hit a score like that, where you say in Germany it's support-starved landscape?
Yeah.
How did you accomplish that?
So first of all, there are still 32% missing, right?
Yeah.
So we never stop pushing towards that. Again, my philosophy is from a guy who's done service himself and whatnot else. There are certain things that you need to achieve in your service department. One of them is ease of use, and that comes again to many things, starting from the environment that you're sitting at as an agent. Because you're stressed out handling calls. It's not always fun to handle a customer care call. Let's be honest about it. And so your work life should be as easy and as stress-less as possible. Ease of use means having all the tools at hand that you need, having a nice environment where you feel comfortable, where you just can't relax, but can't be easy in your mind. And coming to that point means having easy systems. So something a tool should support you and not vice versa. The tool shouldn't force you to do 18 clicks to come to a point while you have a customer on the phone who's already angry and you're telling him, just give me a second, just give me a second, I'm already there. These kind of things, that's hyping up that possible negative tension. So being easy on an agent helps being easy on the customer as well. Being stringent in your communication is another thing which is highly important, especially when customers realize that they call about the same issue twice and they get 2 different answers or even 3 different answers. That's horrible, because that is not putting any trust in your company and in your agents as well. And that's something where you should keep a high focus on to have a stringent, reliant communication towards the customer for whatever reasons. If it's simple stuff, and tell the truth. That's the next thing, being stringent and tell the truth. If you know that you have a delay in shipping, it doesn't help to say, hey, listen, I don't know, it should be there tomorrow, even if you see online in your system that the parcel didn't even left your warehouse or anything else, just to make the life easier for you. Just be stringent, and customers will value that. Obviously, they won't clap and say, oh my God, 4 additional days for shipping. But unless the point is, if you tell them it's coming tomorrow, and so they're waiting for it, maybe it's something urgent, something important, it's not coming, they will call you back. If you're happy enough, they will call you back. If not, they will think to themselves, hey, I'm done. I'm done with that company. They lied to me, obviously, for whatever reason. And I get that parcel. If you as a company are even worse off, they will return that parcel, which means additional costs, whatnot else, and a lost customer. And that comes to the point, a customer that was negatively affected and leaves your company will absolutely talk about this experience way more than about that positive stuff. So that's a reason why you need to create more positive interactions than the negative ones. I mean, that's a no-brainer, but still, even a secondly negative one will have a higher impact on your customer base, on your word of mouth, than 2 crazy positive ones. That's what it is. Because if you have a good experience, you think to yourself, hey, that was cool. And that was
I think this is a very interesting site. There was a study which basically talks about if the number of customers who actually negative customers are 9 times more likely to talk about it in a public forum than a positive customer. And I really liked some of the things you said, and I want to pick one and drill down. You mentioned, one is around, having a system that is easy, so there are, instead of 10 clicks, you're 3 clicks. And that's the type of omni-channel solution that we offer, that you guys are using. But the other point is that you mentioned very clearly about having them a pleasant environment to work with, right? Like say, and this goes to my point about happy employees make happy customers. Now, to me here, customer service agents are on the front line. And you also mentioned that it's not a pleasant job, because sometimes customers are angry, upset, they don't have the patience, and they are out there every single day. Now, how are you setting them up for success? Have you set up your organization for scaling? And what challenges did you do as you scale? Say, for instance, to provide a good experience for employee, 1 or 2 people is different. But as you scale, especially with the number of people, the culture, what exactly did you do to make sure the employees who are at the front lines are able to provide that 68% outstanding score?
Again, it comes down to that ease of use. We were talking about the tools that you have. The other thing is, as an agent, you should know your basics. But looking and working for many companies and realigning customer services for many companies, big ones and small ones, I realized that more often there are crazy complicated procedures or policies to follow as an agent to achieve a totally simple act for a customer. And that's something where my goal is, and that's one of the main things where I'm always pushing to, is I want to have my first level agent to be capable to handle at least 80, if not 90% of all tickets or interactions that he's having at this moment. So picking up the phone, it should never come to the point, or almost never come to the point, where it's like, I need to transfer you. to the specialist, or I need to talk to somebody, or let me call you back. Because again, that's not a good experience for the customer. Again, and it's so easy to create a way better experience, because let's be honest, most of the companies, they act like this on a service level. You call to a first level agent, call, I don't know, your bank, something, and you have an issue with an outstanding payment or a refund or whatever, something. The first level agent will mostly never be able to answer your question or even to figure out how to help you or solve your problem. And that's causing, if you have that in your mind already and you know, okay, so I'm talking to this guy, I need to tell my story again and again. How crazy and how wow is that if that first level agent tells you, I totally got you. Let me do 3 clicks, let me verify this, money's on its way. You can have it on your bank by tomorrow.
Got it.
And it happens, it blows your mind. As a customer, you're like, wow, that's how it should be, right? And that's what sticks. And that's one of the main things that we're trying to achieve, because on the other hand, it gives our agents a good feeling. They're not handling over and over a certain thing, always telling the same line and not getting nowhere. I mean, obviously, sure, you see on your scoreboard, you handled 120 calls and you had like 14 chats and whatnot else. But what kind of achievement is in that against having a customer that says like, oh, wow, you just made my day. And even if that happens once a week, it gives you so much fuel as an agent to do more and to strive and to do these things. So enabling our agents to do their work in the best possible way, because that agent knows at this moment what is the best solution for that customer on the other side. And enabling that agent to do that, that's my main mission with my team. And that's how we're pushing and making sure that agents stay with us. Again, I've mentioned we have agent first line on the first war line agents that are with us for 10 years.
No, you make again really good points, and I want to use that as a segue as well, because you mentioned the tenure, how long they are not just automatons who are basically doing a piece of the puzzle and throwing it to the next person. They are problem solvers. You also talked about this first call resolution and versus number of calls and so on. So that brings us to a very important question of, like, say, there's a maxim which is measure what matters, and it completely changes behavior. It completely changes the customer experience. What do you measure your managers and frontline support agents on?
There's another maxim which says you can only manage what you can measure.
Yeah, that's true.
I like that one as well. And I'm a number cruncher guy, so I like to sit in front of your analytics tools and deep dive into certain things. So to be honest, Zooplus was never about those parts, realizing why customers reach out. We had the teams and they were doing their things. And when I joined roughly 3 years ago, I started to realize we need some big changes. So that's what we've done. And obviously, having 450 agents working for us, they are all with our service providers. So those are not internal Zooplus guys and girls. It's a typical thing, and to that size, it's tough to manage, right? Internally, especially cost-wise as well, which is always important. So one of the things is I'm always trying to establish a partnership with my service partner. It's not my service provider. I'm always naming them service partner. So what we're currently doing is, while we're rolling out Freshdesk and Freshcaller, it gives us handfuls of new parameters and data and whatnot else, what we can now measure on. Back in the days, it was always about how much, and I told you, how much tickets could an agent solve in their shift, and that was it. Because old system that we're obviously still using, because rollout hasn't finished, was never about these kind of things. It never gave you that feedback on how often was a ticket reopened, because that status was never there. How happy was actually a customer after the interaction? How long did it took us to handle a ticket, and all these kind of things, which are now out of the box available. And one of my maxims is always focus. That's an important thing. And I think, and I saw that as well in the past, when I joined a company and looking at certain things, they were always so proud, and they had 4 dashboards showing crazy numbers and whatnot else. And I was like, so what am I looking at right now?
Lots of numbers, CF numbers.
And so to my point, it's always, it's a max of 5 KPIs that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And with your system now having at hand and rolling it out and then finishing it, I have 2 that are highly important for me. One is first resolution rate, which plays again into the thing I've mentioned before, enabling my agents to finalize whatever task is at their hand now.
Yeah.
So first resolution is highly important. It gives you the same thing back. Was the agent actually smart enough, and did he realize, and was he focused enough on the customer's behalf, or did the customer need to come back and say, hey, listen, Roman, was kind of nice, but what's up with those 2 other questions that I asked you in my email? So focus again from the customer, from the agent side as well on that topic. So again, first resolution rate and obviously customer satisfaction. Those are 2 things, again, out of the box in your system that I highly rely on in all the companies I've worked with. And those are the 2 main metrics that we will be using. Obviously, another one is time to respond. That gives you a good hint on how busy are your teams.
Yeah.
And actually, do you need to change something? Do you need to step up?
You get a better idea of if there is an issue with that. Yeah.
Right. So those are the 3 main ones. And then there are 2 other ones that you can play with. I mean, it always differs. It always depends on, do you have a high volume business, or is it more relying on service? Can be, they can be different things, right? It can be from, hey, where's my parcel? Oh, here's your tracking ID, Arun, and I already saw it should be there tomorrow. That's service. But another thing is, for us, hey, I have a puppy. I've never had a puppy, and what should I feed him? Obviously dog food, but you have like 80 brands and I don't know what else. So it's more about explaining certain things.
Being a little bit consultative in their approach, Right. And one interesting thing is you mentioned the 3 KPIs, and like, how are the managers? Because many of the companies, again, might be scaling to say there are managers for teams, right? Do managers have the same KPIs, or do they have in additional KPIs that you look at?
To be honest, no, they had the same one. I'm just using it differently.
Yeah.
A team manager for me needs to make sure that his team has a very high first resolution rate.
Yeah.
It means something different to him than to his team. He needs to make sure that his teams know his business and the procedures and have the things at hand that they need to have a high resolution rate. Being focused, paying attention to the customer, and being enabled enough to do whatever is needed to solve that. That's one thing. Within the CSAT, we have 3 questions, which is, were we fast enough with the response? That the agent you talked to handled your request in the right manner?
Yeah.
And the last one is, no, I'm missing the last one. That's funny, what I'm talking about. But we have 3 different questions. So based on that, I'm deriving different goals for my managers than for the agents, obviously.
Yeah.
And the same for the CSAT. It's the same thing. If a customer writes back, that agent was unfriendly and he was rude or whatever, obviously that's a no-go for both, for the manager and for the agent. And so it's just almost the same scorecard. The viewpoint is different. Let's put it this way.
Got it. And then now, for a lot of people, COVID crisis is top of mind. And earlier I was just basically telling about COVID is just other than being a health crisis and a human tragedy from that standpoint, it's accelerated a lot of things like digitizations, emergence of asynchronous chat as a channel, omni-channel support, people working from home. All this are accelerated like that so fast. How did it impact your business? It's a multi-part question. How did you react? And the last one I also want to is, what do you think you could have done better? Right? So
business impact was huge, obviously. I mean, it started in mid-March. We, as employees from Zooplus, we've been sent home by our senior management on March 15th, I think. We all got a call, and it was like, hey, stay at home. If you're in the office, pack your stuff, go home. We will let you know what's happening and all these kind of things. So it was crazy times for us. Looking at that part, sales-wise, we had numbers that we've never seen before, because obviously it was different things in different countries.
Yeah.
I learned that in France, everybody was buying wine, right?
Yeah.
And other things. In Germany, totally crazy. Everybody was buying toilet paper like crazy for whatever reason. And there's a funny word for that as well. It's called, in German, it's Hamsterkäufe.
Yeah.
It's the hamster, right, who's packing his pack and everything else and trying to get as much possible of stuff.
Hoarding,
so, yeah, and we saw the same thing for pet supplies, obviously, because nobody knew what's going on, what's happening. Will stores still be open and whatnot else. So we had crazy order intakes starting from mid of March, and it peaked until April. Mm-hmm. So that was tremendous. Obviously, great numbers, everything. It was tremendous. Logistics-wise, different story.
Yeah,
we're pretty much very good in forecasting what's going on, what's coming in, how many orders, and these kind of things. So our logistics guys had to step up their game, obviously, working overshifts, night times, weekends, whatnot else. That was quite demanding, I would say. And service-wise, we were lucky enough. That's one of the things that I'm always pushing for, and that's something that startups should do as well. Have a disaster recovery plan.
Yeah,
that's something that you will always realize that you should have done it when you need it and you don't have anything at hand. And it can have different reasons and different scenarios and whatnot else. Obviously, I never had any scenario for COVID. Our scenarios went like, okay, what's happening if landlines in a certain area will break down? What do we do then? Or if God forbid, a call center burns down, right? So these kind of things, contingency plans, let's put it this way. Never anything like COVID. So what we've done pretty early was, again, having a partnership with your service partner puts you in a totally different position than if you're the one that is always pushing and cost efficiency and whatnot else, and you're the guy who they will roll their eyes when they see your number on the phone. It's a different story with us. We have a partnership. So I was talking to them, to my 5 different service providers, and we were like, hey, listen, we need to make sure people can work from home. And again, having a call center, and if you know how they work, I mean, there are different versions of it, and we have everything from small call centers with 15 people as a team up to a tower, which is packed with 1,600 agents. Obviously, they don't work all for us, but it's a tower, a call center tower actually in Sofia. And especially that service provider, they were like, what do you mean, work from home? That's nothing we are allowing to our agents. And I'm like, listen, guys, you need to make sure that you allow that in the future, because if things go down south, you need to act. Yeah. They were like, we can't. We have a physical on-premise call IVR, so a telephony system. Yeah. How do I get that to my agent home? And we're like, okay, that's a good point. And we were in the state, luckily, and there's a lot of luck in the story as well. We were luckily in that state where at that service provider, all the teams were already transferred to Freshdesk. And we were in the beginnings of transferring them to the Freshcaller instance as well. Yeah. So we pushed heavily towards that. We rolled out Freshcaller for all those agents, 80 in total. Yeah. And we enabled, our team was the first team that moved from that tower to their home offices. Got it. So what happened there is we actually managed, we've never lost any service. Service levels stayed. We never lost any service lines like other huge companies in Germany and other countries where those call centers needed to shut down. Yeah. Not having a virtual call solution or these kind of things. And they were forced to shut down certain parts of their service, which is horrible. Yeah, it's completely, That puts a lot of pressure on the other things. So that's what we managed. And that's what we've done.
Sorry, go finish your thought.
The point is what I'm aiming at, and that sounds like a sales thing. It isn't. Freshdesk and Freshcaller enabled us to stay active and productive during those crazy times, to be honest. Wouldn't we have started at a certain point? it would have been quite tough to stay on that level as we've done. Obviously, shutting down 15 hotlines in 15 countries, it's not creating trust on the customer side, obviously. But if everything stays up to normal, that's a totally different story.
And also from the infrastructure standpoint, right? Because the software being on the cloud and being those two software integrated together, even the home office infrastructure, a lot of people, is able to easily get in. Where if they have to move the, different devices and things, it's just a massive effort. There was one question that came about is from Damien, and it's mostly around like how do you handle peaks, especially I think whether you outsource a part of the support, and I know you have partners you use with. But during the COVID, you said the volume went up and the ticket volume go up likewise. But how do you handle peaks in a regular basis? Maybe just if you can break it down and talk about it a little bit, because it might be helpful for a lot of the folks.
Absolutely. Again, being prepared for a peak is something that is highly recommended. And peaks can look different, obviously, right? And if you can forecast them, that's always an easier task. Obviously, then you talk to your service provider, and then you make sure there are enough agents, or you train more, and these kind of things. Again, one of the main things where you don't have to worry about possible peaks that much, put an emphasis and high focus on automation. From the early beginnings, it's easier to automate certain things up front or on a green field, as you would say, than later on. Because legacy systems don't like being attached to other ones and building API calls and REST APIs and whatnot else to pull certain data out to make it available somewhere else is always tough. So prepare, automate as much as possible on both sides. It can be a self-service thing for the customer, or it can be something that is semi-automated, and it's again ease of use for that agent. It's helping him to supply some feedback, information, data, documents to the customer easier than it would be if it's not prepared. Otherwise, peaks, again, unforeseen peaks, and we had some during COVID, it's just something where you need to, again, be on a partnership level with whoever's on that other side supporting you. And if you have a good culture in those teams, they are always willing to help. And that's my experience. We went through some tough times on the ticket volume side as well, but our teams with those service providers, not all of them, but we have teams where agents out of different teams that are working for airlines and whatnot else, they are trying to get into our teams because they know there's a lot of appreciation. We do stuff for the agents. We're listening to them. We're constantly visiting them, listening to them. We're just sitting together at lunch, whatever, and it's a simple chat. It's about, hey, so what's actually going on? What's the main pain point that you're having on your daily basis? Tell me. And you get information from agents, again, another group of my customers, that is so valuable, and you know what to focus on. So coming back to that thing, you only can ramp up to a certain degree and looking at a peak. And everything else needs to be about proactiveness and being honest. Even if you're flooded with tickets, just be open about it.
Yeah.
Put it on the page, put it into a ticket that comes in, just reply, hey, listen, Arun, I'm totally sorry. I know it's urgent, but we're trying our best to solve your request and all the other ones as good as possible. But crazy times, just give us a minute. Being open and honest about it helps. And again, if it's about stringency and if you do it all the time, then it's not like a fake lie, and you need to remove that as soon as possible as well. Because if that's a standard communication part, you lose trust. And that's, again,
I think this is a very important point. It's about setting the right expectations by being transparent, and gap between expectation and the reality is what causes either the wow moment, positive or negative. And I see another expert in the field, Thomas Neuschafer, saying he totally agrees with your approach. In that, now you talked about automation, and thanks, Thomas. Just switching like AI, right? This is it's been talked about quite a bit, and at what stage are you? And are you still waiting to study and dipping your toes, or do you have plans already? Like how are you using AI, and how do you think of scaling that in the future?
So I'm a tech nerd to a certain degree, and I'm always fascinated about it. If you look at our home, my wife is going crazy about it, but there's everywhere as a Google pod, and the lights are going automatically on and off, and all these kind of things, right? So I'm all about these things, making my life easier and convenient, and I'm a child being trapped in a pretty old man's body. So AI-wise, I'm always fascinated about it, and I couldn't disagree more looking at certain trends that are put out there where everybody's saying it will be the death of call centers and all the agents and whatnot else. Again, my approach towards that and what we're as plans as that we have is use it to help make things easier. Again, for both sides, agents and customers. Mm-hmm. And using AI, I love Freddy, not just, I mean, he's a dog, so he fits to us like perfect, right? So we have already 3 certain things that we want to achieve with Freddy once we have our initial rollout finalized. Mm-hmm. Because again, I've mentioned it before, focus on certain things that are important now, and execute and then move on. Don't lose your mind on too many things at once. It's always charming to, you see something and you're like, oh my God, I need that now. Don't do it. It will distract you and you get lost in the way, and then you look back and you realize, oh my God, the other thing is still not finished. What's going on? So focus again. So our focus right now is rolling out Freshdesk and Freshcaller to all of our agents and get a one-on-one situation with our old-fashioned system, just better and new. Phone, email, contact form. Mm-hmm. And even the contact form already has certain parts of AI in it where we're looking forward to once a customer asks a question or searches for an answer and he's just lazy and won't read whatever's in there, and then he starts typing an email in or a contact form, and it still pops up on the side and it's like, hey, listen, I think that could be the answer to your question. That's awesome. That's not killing an agent's job. It's just making that job easier, right? Yeah. So AI-wise, I love it. I can't wait to see more applications and more things being developed in that. And on our side, it's all about making things and life easier for both sides. One of the things that we get asked a lot from customers, where's my parcel? I mean, I guess that's the #1 e-commerce customer care question at all times. If you're shipping stuff, that's the question #1. Yeah. What we're looking for is something, and we're currently actually in the beta of building it. We know how it should look like. It will be something where Freddy pops up, and you as a customer, as a logged-in customer, it's even easier. You just say, hey, listen, where's my last order? Yeah. And the system will pull the data and says, okay, I see Arun ordered this one. That's the tracking ID. That's the status of that tracking. I'm not showing you the tracking ID. Where's the ease in that? Sure, you can click on it and you land on a different page, whatnot else. No, Freddy will say, hey, listen, Arun, that parcel, the current status of your parcel is it has been packed into the truck and it's on its way. And depending on the shipping provider that we use, I can even tell you it's only 6 stations away. Yeah. And that's one of the things we're currently building and having in mind, and that's something hopefully we will launch by the end of this year as one of the first things, a fully integrated AI solution. And it's not even AI, let's put it this way. It's a bot that uses certain things. Yeah. AI will go more into details when we start looking at sentiments in emails and realizing, is that customer angry? Yeah. Threatening us? Is he happy? What's going on? Is there anything else that we need to do? Should that ticket be pushed upwards because there are certain words being used in there? And all these kind of things. That's the stuff that will, again, ease up the life of agents and customers as well.